meet of heroes, legends old. In his stories their glories unfold. Baz the Bard with strings of gold. His heart cries out the tales he's told.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Meta Report. My name's Baz the Bard and I've been joined as ever by Scott Mines. How's it going, Scott?
Howdy, Baz. It's going really well, thank you. A little on the tired side, but when aren't we these days? Feels like that's just a pretty constant state of being. But yeah, good. Enjoying Fab and looking forward to more Fab as this ProQuest season continues. So. Yeah,
we certainly have had our, I would say it's our fill of it, but we never get enough. No. Pro Tour was just around the corner. I had a thoroughly good time on the Saturday. I really enjoyed myself. Seeing everybody, seeing sort of like faces I haven't seen in a while, seeing new people come up to me and saying, watch your show, really thankful, what you're doing. And that's always humbling to, to hear that. It's quite funny when you're sitting next to somebody and they recognize your voice and not your face. But
yep.
Yeah, it
certainly is.
It is really good. How did the event go for you?
Yeah, equally good for the most part. Really humbling amount of people came to say hello, signed a lot of cards, took a lot of photos, and that's all, as you say, very humbling. You can never really get used to that kind of stuff. In terms of events, Pro Tour, what Pro Tour? We don't talk about that. Didn't go particularly stellar, unfortunately. Draft was a bit wonky, and CC didn't break my way, but felt really good about the deck and took it for a spin in the call-in, and it went pretty well. Took 13th out of like 900 odd people. Sadly, lost the winning in for top 8, which is always a bit of a shame. But some $500 in the back pocket and best finish in Florian, which seems to have been a pretty good choice heading into the meta game that we're about to go into. I expect to see plenty more of him in the near future.
Thing is, it must feel really good. Like you were saying, 13th out of 900 players, you come away just going, yeah, I've put in a decent shift there. So well done to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So we're on to ProQuest Singapore. Some of you may have noticed that we didn't have a show last week. That's because there was only 2 events, one in the UK and one in Sweden. So I didn't think it was worth doing one show for that. But we've put all the weeks together, and here we are, weeks 1 and 2. So let's get cracking. He says, as I lose all my buttons. And how do I normally do this?
Isn't that normally how we get cracking with this show? Just Baz forgets where his buttons are, nothing works properly.
Indeed. I'm just like, why is that not clicking?
Part of the package.
Hey, there we go. Right, cool. Oh, a little bit of pub.
Before we get cracking, we've got some shilling to do.
It's it's been a while. I really don't like doing this bit. We're going to do it anyway. If you want to support me further, I have a Patreon, which you can get discounts to buy the same token, the plastic tokens you see on my stream, and Thistle Tavern, you get 10% off their flesh and blood products. Also, the amount of level of Patreon that you give to me, sort of like every 3 months, basically that comes back as a credit for PCG grading. There are other ways to support me. There is a tipping link or leave a super thanks via YouTube. But yeah, remember to subscribe. Okie dokie. So I've lost my buttons.
He might not like shilling, but I do. It's a known fact. You win more ProQuest if you subscribe to Baz the Bard. So sort it out. Sort it out.
You came 13th, didn't you? So it can't be bad.
Totally how that works. But I mean, we're going to see so many people today that are definitely subscribed to Baz's channel, and if you want to join them next week, you probably should be. So sort that out.
Yeah, it might be slightly better as I get into the swing of it once again. Oh my god,
no.
It's like
it's gonna be the longest episode ever because there is just like maybe 5 minutes between slides. The buttons don't work. Everything's busted.
Week 4, I'll be a pro again, and then we'll have a couple of weeks off, and it'll be like, oh, what am I doing? Oh yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay, so
by the time he's sorted, Aurora won't be here anymore. That's gonna be the way this goes.
Maybe. Let's get into week 1. We're going to Angle Gaming in Peterborough. 20 players, so not a bad shout for week 1. Was worried that might have had a slightly lower attendance because everybody basically went to Pro Tour London, and may have sort of like run out of gas to go to one of the ProQuests. But
yeah, I think we'll see a little bit of that this season. Obviously, ProQuests are stellar, but This time around, Singapore's a bit far. Not everyone's going to have the pleasure of making it to the Pro Tour itself if they've not got the ability to bank on the qualification.
Yeah.
And people have played a lot of flesh and blood lately. With the Pro Tour happening and so much more around the corner with high seas on the way, Nationals not far away either. It does make sense that a few people are taking a bit of a breather. So I expect to see this season being, it's still pretty popular. These things always are. Fab's continuing to grow, but maybe a little less quiet than like the Pro Tour London season before it, which was absolutely hectic in this neck of the woods.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wanted to go. It was just around the corner, wasn't it? It was just like, right,
100%,
I'm going,
yeah.
definitely going.
So,
but yeah, this
probably
is
not reaching those same lofty heights, I don't think, but we'll see.
Yeah, you've hit it. You've hit the nail on the head there. But this is the first week. This is the last hurrah for Enigma, thanks to Pablo putting in a stellar effort at Pro Tour London. So congratulations, Pablo. So 5 Enigma here, and the second favourite, Aurora.
Yeah, I'm going to be seeing a lot of that. I get the feeling that that will be a thing we see for the long time. Well, for the next 2 weeks approximately. Maybe not even that. Beyond that, some cool ones here. Good to see 2 Dios. I do think she's under respected in the current format. Maybe not so much going forward if the format does slow down as much as we expect. But in the room that this was, I think she's actually a pretty good pick. Otherwise, great diversity here. Love to see the Acilio repping a little bit of chaos on the one-off down there. And of course, Zen having his hurrah as well. Maybe not quite as grand as Enigma's towards the end, more of a whimper than an explosion, but has also left us since. So glad that people got the chance to play that as well.
Indeed. Right. Let's get into the top 4. So here we go. David Yao with Enigma. He's a blue pitch guy. So, stuck around after Pro Tour London and got himself an event over here in Peterborough. Jordan Long with Zen. Tom Hazel with Arachne Marionette. And Richard Carr with Aurora.
Yeah, I actually heard of a few folks who stuck around post-London to jam some PQs. I'm sure we'll be seeing some more world-renowned faces in the near future, both local and not.
Yep.
But yeah, this meta game pretty cool. Very happy to see Marionette up here. I think it's a deck that there's been a lot of discussion around recently. The Florian matchup pretty rough in general, but otherwise plenty of game into the room. That's kind of a dagger-centric list that won both a Battle Hardened and a ProQuest in the same weekend. Just now, from when we're filming, has kind of driven up a bit of excitement around that hero. So happy to see that here. Battle of the band, I guess, for lack of a better way. 2 heroes at the top here that are no longer with us. Typically, this is a game that Zen wants to play, is the understanding by most. So I'll lean towards Jordan, and I'll put the prestige out of mind, at least until the finals. On the Mario side, this matchup's super close. I do think Aurora is genuinely quite an interesting one for Mario, but I will back Rich Carr in this case. So let's see if this is Aurora and Zen.
Okay. Is Mario's matchup dependent on what he can transform into, or is it not?
Not so much. Those things do come up, but a lot of the power of good Mario players is having as much control over that transformation as possible, kind of getting the most from Mask of Deceit in spots where it matters, and mostly looking to try and leverage your opponent being marked and make the most of having a reaction on your hero more than anything else. So for stuff like Bonds of Agony, it doesn't really matter what agent it is. It just matters that it's an agent. They can still throw a reaction on the bonds.
Sure.
Obviously, the big one with Black Widow, with Kiss of Death, doing all kinds of nonsense by discarding multiple cards if you flick Kiss of Death at them. So that's usually the one you're aiming for with the mask in that matchup. But yeah, typically doesn't matter all too much. You definitely prefer to see a few nice ones in pivotal spots, but it's not the be-all, end-all.
All right, fair enough. Okay. So just to recap, you're going with Jordan and Richard. Yep.
Yep, that's where we're hoping to be.
Right, sweet. Okay. Right, okay. So 1 out of 2 ain't bad. We've got David Yao from Blue Pitch versus Richard Carr on Aurora.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely not as favourable a matchup for Zen towards the end of his lifespan as it was back in Amsterdam. So I can definitely see it going. Yeah, definitely see it going either way. That being said, this obviously was the premier matchup of this last format before the most recent chunk of LLs. And while the matchup is close and Enigma had found a way to get an edge, I did still think it was Aurora favoured. So I've got to back Rich here in the finals and say that he took it down. Okay.
So let's find out. Did Richard take it? He didn't take it. So congratulations for David. Sticking around certainly paid off because Singapore's not too far from you when you get home, that's for sure. Righty, there was no gold foil. The kit hadn't arrived in time. So
that's disappointing, but fair enough.
Yeah, it looks like Peterborough have got to post it all the way to Hong Kong now. So that's the rub. Let's get into the other event that was on the first week. So this is Main Stage Landala in Sweden, so right next to Gothenburg. It was streamed on Fab Sweden, so you can go back and check that out. Now, last time they didn't have any audio when they were at this shop because they were placed too close to the checkout, but they must have sort of like rearranged the shop a bit because they've already got audio this time, so you can go back and listen to that. So even though Enigma you would think would be sort of like, you know, the most popular hero going in, you know, everybody wanted to get a last hurrah, there's only 2 here, but what warms my heart is 2 Fang. Yeah, it's nice to see sort of like, you know, that Fang is getting some love.
Yeah, I think Fang is genuinely a pretty defendable hero going forward. I think it will be a very defendable hero once Aurora leaves the format. I think it is mostly the matchup he's trying to avoid in both of his variations, be it Decimator Fang or typical Fireblade Fang. They're both a little wonky into Aurora in my opinion, and that gets a lot easier when she's not around anymore, and I expect to see a lot more of him from that point forward. That said, some really interesting choices here. A couple of curious 2-ofs. We don't see too much KO these days. Again, good to see a couple Dio. I did think it was a good pick while Enigma was around. 2 Kano, again, just people. Stephen Manning put up a bit of a showing in the calling, getting 10th on Kano back in London, so might have sparked a few Wizards to pick the deck back up again.
Yeah.
A little further down, people that are, after my heart here, the one Betsy, got to respect that, and Rhinar, a deck that I am curiously watching as we head into the all defense reaction format, because he is pretty good when that's the case. So
I watched a stream by Mansat this weekend. Someone had Rhinar CYB. It was just like, I just feel so
okay.
wrong.
well, I'm not a fan of whoever that person was, but nonetheless, I do think there might be some breathing room for our long forgotten brute. In Aurora's absence, we'll have to wait and see.
He did have an awesome finish. It was like barraging beatdown, alpha rampage finish. It was just like,
yeah,
it was just
that's
like,
exactly what
brilliant.
you want. It's why it's like so good into those decks like Florian, especially like the Scepter versions, these CYB Fang style decks. You just get to pitch stack 4 Intimidates and just go, well, okay, you can try and block as well as you want, but take 18 again.
Yeah.
And you will do a good job of it. So.
Right, let's get into the top 4. Erica Forslov, no stranger to top 4. She's got an RTN. Ivan Ikeli on Zen. Alex Moynier on Bravo. And Peter Brass, he is on Slippy.
This is an interesting split. I don't have too much experience in most of these matchups. Didn't test Zen into Aurora very much. Almost forgot what a Bravo was, and quite frankly, Slippy has only just made his breakout, really, and so those matchups are still a lot of unexplored territory for me and most others. At a guess, I have to assume that this Bravo was obviously quite defensively slanted, would be my guess. I would think that's pretty good into your assassins, so I'll take a guess that Alex managed to take this down, but very curious to find out. On the Zen Aurora side, I do think this matchup was surprisingly close, and whether or not your chess piece lines up with an Arc Lightning turn or the rest of it tends to be a pretty deciding factor there. I'm going to go with Zen on this one because he did have to win some of these things to LL, and I don't know where those came from. So we're gonna go with Zen on this half of the bracket.
Okay, let's have a look. It was Zen. Okay. So it was Zen versus Slippy in the final. So maybe Bravo wasn't, as defensive as he wanted to be.
Maybe not. And definitely goes to show you that Slippy has the potential to kind of punish these defensive Guardians as well as being the only assassin that's like very good at sidestepping and where they actually put the stuff that matters after that first attack has go again.
Maybe he packed Shreds. So
Shred is a monster. Learned my lesson about Shred a number of times at numerous top-level events, so not a big fan of that one. But with that being said, I am a big fan of Peter Brass, and I'm hopeful they managed to take out what I perceive to be a favourable matchup, and hopefully they took this down.
Okay. Let's see that. It was. Well done, Peter. Well done indeed. So, fantastic win for Slippy. I don't see many of those. Let's do a quick recap of week 1. We can see Aurora. Oh my goodness, 26 wins, dominated week 1. Enigma sort of like, surpassed all the points she needed to get into the Living Legend. And as you said, Zen sort of like, crawled his way through with 3.
Over the line, yeah. One exactly the amount required, which was Very impressive. Yeah, I think honestly, this looks very dramatic. But if I'm being blunt, I think this is going to be tame, based on what you see this week. I have just seen a apparent update to the leaderboard for week
Okay.
2. I don't have confirmation that's true, but if it is, there's going to be a whole lot more Aurora on this pie next week. I'm also very curious who at LSS is making these graphics and why Nu is the only one zoomed out to the full hero portrait instead of just having a face. What are you doing?
Maybe that's their favourite art of a hero.
Yeah, maybe. I want an explanation, so I'm going to throw it out there. Let me know why it looks like that.
Maybe they just forgot to do it. But yeah, maybe if we've got time, we can get week 2's results in if we can find it. Okay. So let's get into week 2 itself. Enigma is no longer present, as we've discussed, and we're going to go to Ireland to Gamers World in Dublin. 16 players. Florian sort of like an Aurora is what everybody sort of like was talking about. Maybe a bit of Jarl, but we don't really see him this week. He hasn't really made an impact, but Victor has certainly stuck his head up and gone, okay, I'm coming out to play again.
Got some room to breathe for sure. To plug myself selfishly for a moment, when I kind of got back from London, I made a very cool shot of an article just called "You Should Be Playing Florian Rockwood Harbinger," because I firmly believe that was the case. My experience with the deck in London was that really Enigma was the only thorn you had to kind of mitigate yourself towards. Hilariously, the big thorn now is itself. In the Scepter version of the deck, which definitely obviously came to prominence in London as well.
Yeah.
But either version, I just think the deck is so well positioned in this current format going forward. You should win the majority of these fatigue fights, and you have at least an even matchup, if not a slightly favorable one, in my opinion, against Aurora. So I expect to see a lot of it going forward. I do think it is one of the premier decks of the format. A little surprised to see only the one Aurora, which is maybe a bit shocking. People played it in London, maybe decided not to do that again, and have a bit more fun with something else. But yeah, couple Fang here, couple Prism. Obviously, another hero that's going to gain a shit ton of ground. Part of my language over the Enigma losing itself in the CC format, and a great showing at London. And a couple Slippy, similar story. Deck that had a breakout story in London and trying to capitalize on that as we go through the ProQuest season.
Thing is, it's kind of like saying that the 2 best decks are Runeblades, but it's just like,
that's really reductionist because, yes, it is, but they're very different decks. I guess you can say absolutely. The Grasp of the Arknight is the best card in Fab right now. That's probably a fair assumption, but otherwise, they are on opposite ends of the spectrum. Just thankfully benefiting from the same ridiculous fridge.
Yeah, Guardian players will automatically migrate to sort of like Florian. It's kind of like their style. Felling can come in for 8. They've got some big hits as well. So, you've seen a few Guardian players going on to him.
I think it's one of those big understated things about Florian. It's so easy against these CYB decks and other defensive decks to kind of sit there and take your setup turns because they can't really punish you for doing that. They got a pile of D reacts and a lot of non-attack actions. And Florian just isn't that way. With Trollongs, all these big earth attacks and stuff. There's just so many ways to convert your hands when your opponent gives you a breather. And they're not insane numbers or anything, but if you're still doing 12 damage every time your opponent doesn't do anything, you will just win those games as opposed to the Jarl players who are kind of sheepishly passing back with a handful of block cards that don't do anything. And that's kind of the draw. So.
Jolly good. Let's see who made it into the top 4. Indigo Bosworth with Nu Alluring Desire. Dylan Thompson is on Florian. No surprise there because Dylan basically plays sort of like, top meta decks. He's got 2 Irish national champion, back-to-back national champion, an RTN, 4 ProQuest and 3 skirmishes as well. So fantastic win record for Dylan. Jack Canty on Prism and Evan McTiernan on Dashio.
Yeah, I caught up with Dylan, shall we say, briefly in London, so I'm fully aware of their feelings towards Florian. This bracket, an interesting one. I think, as far as I'm concerned, all of the matchups we're about to see are a bit lopsided if this breaks the way I expect.
Okay.
So we'll find out if I'm right. I think Florian is significantly favored into Nu. You can certainly get fatigued in that matchup if you're not careful. She's very good at punishing you for ambitious blocks. But as a general rule, the game is always going to go very long, and the long game favors the power of Grasp of the Arknight and Florian's hero ability. So we'll prefer to be on that side there with Dylan. And I think Dash is pretty heavily favored into Prism. So I'm going to go with Evan on that side of the bracket.
Okie dokie. Let's see if you're right. So 1 out of
No.
2 ain't bad. We have
Well.
Dylan versus Jack. Florian versus Prism.
Well, congratulations to Jack for taking down Dash. That's a hard one to win on Prism. Unfortunately, Florian's also a hard one to win for Prism. So I got to back Dylan in this final by quite a significant margin.
Okie dokie. So let's see. He was. Well done, Dylan. Well done indeed. A nice time to get into form, considering UK Nationals is coming up. And yeah, if you could become 3 times national champion, that it would be one hell of a feat.
That's a heck of an accolade. Yeah, would love to be able to write home about that. So good luck, Dylan. I'm sure there is a whole country trying to stop you. But,
indeed.
We will see.
Gold foil, Searing Emberblade was his pick. So
that's not bad. Yeah, Fi definitely having some splatters of playability in this current format. So not a terrible one.
Right. Next one, Excelsior Comics in Bristol, I should say. Only 16 players. Now, normally their armories are sort of like 20 plus players. But as you mentioned before, possibly we've got sort of like a little bit of downtime because of ProQuest London, and maybe people can't go to ProQuest Singapore. But nonetheless, I was not expecting 3 Dorinthia.
No, this is kind of a very interesting discussion point, honestly. Dory is a deck that gets a lot of breathing room in the face of Enigma reaching Living Legend. And it's typically quite an interesting choice into Aurora because it's hard to race a Dawnblade. If you choose to ignore a Dawnblade swinging for the hills, it will do a really good job at racing you. Of course, there is these Count Your Blessings versions of Dorinthia knocking around as well that seem like defendable choices.
Yep.
I'm not so sure how I feel about them into the other grindy fatigue-based decks, but they're certainly an option that's found success recently, so not super surprised to see that number ticking up. Both builds seem super reasonable. Outside of that, again, Aurora dominance, not shocked. Very much what I expect to see for this next 2 weeks. And a lot of very sweet one-offs here. Acilio, again, very cool. Ira, a deck that is also gaining ground in the absence of Enigma, benefits from having that matchup out of the format. So yeah, just a good spread. Should be a fun event.
Yeah, Acilio is definitely gaining popularity. We'll see that in sort of like the coverage that we're doing.
I think he's about to gain a lot more in a few weeks when those lightning cards need to go somewhere. We'll be seeing a lot more Wizard players in week 4.
Maybe. Right, top 4 time. Tim Greenaway on Acilio, Steve Andrews on Florian, Ben Lux with Prism. He's got a skirmish, and Lewis Folks has got 2 skirmishes, and he's on Aurora.
All right, well done, Tim. Good to see you putting up a showing on our silly boy here. I actually do think part of the reason for Acilio's success is a pretty reasonable matchup into Florian. Okay. They do, of course, put some pressure on you, but you have the ability to set up some rather obnoxious combo turns that kind of go above and beyond the defensive capabilities of Florian. So there's plenty of room to win that matchup. I don't actually have all that much experience in it. I'm not sure anyone does, but I will go with Tim because I want the dream to remain alive. Outside of that, Ben and Lewis, this is a pretty coin flippy matchup from what I understand. It's pretty close, depending on how the armor lines up on breakpoints, where those angelic wraths are, a few other factors along the way. Could very much go either way. I do think I prefer to be on the Aurora side of it, given the chance, though. So I'm going to take Lewis Folks on Aurora.
Okay. Let's see that. It wasn't. Okay. So, Tim Greenaway, living the dream of every Acilio player, has made it into the final versus Ben Lux on Prism.
Oh, I got a lot of time for that. I have no idea how this matchup plays. My brain is like screaming at me that a wizard can't be an illusionist. That's obviously not true by any stretch, but it feels like Acilio is going to have a really hard time stopping you from getting smacked by heralds. Your armor is just not as proficient as Aurora's. As much as I really want you to tell me I'm wrong, I think I've got to go with Ben on Prism.
Okay. So Ben on Prism. Let's see It was Ben on Prism. So well done, Ben. Congratulations. So Ben has basically been playing Illusionist since Dromai. He dabbled apparently in a bit of Enigma, and now he's gone on to Prism. So I've got all this
certainly dabbled. I caught up with Ben in London and lost to Enigma. So yeah, fully aware of how that goes.
Yeah, I got that information from James Adams. So yeah, I hope that's all correct. Tim Greenaway, he's kind of like gaming royalty from the Star Wars sort of like game, Star Wars X-Wing.
Right.
It's sort of like they've got a big family, sort of like playing Star Wars X-Wing. So that's where I know Tim from. He got a reputation because he played from such a young age. He was playing at the age of 9 that they called him the Timinator, and he was beating quite a lot of people while playing that. I watched him play 40k Conquest, and he was really good at that as well. So I'm really pleased that Tim's picked up Fab, and he's doing really well. So well done, Tim.
Transferable skills. That's a heck of a showing on Acilio too. And if we listen to what you're saying there, I'm sure it won't be the last we see of Tim.
Yeah, indeed. Gold foil Earthlord Bounty was open, so just in time for Adult Valda. So well done, done.
Yeah, that one might be all right shortly. Nicely done, Ben.
Let's go on to Entoyment Wargaming and Hobby Centre in Pool. 18 players. We have top of the tree, the deadly duo Aurora and Florian. So this is kind of like what we were expecting. Lots of Aurora, lots of Florian, smattering of the rest.
Yeah, settling into this week and week 2, and you're going to see the same again in week 3, for as far as I'm concerned, at least. Again, couple of dash, good to see. I'm not as comfortable on this choice as I would have been when Enigma was legal. I think the big old pile of fatigue decks and Florians and stuff is a bit difficult. It's definitely a tough matchup. Even new is a bit touch and go at times. Happy to see a couple Vincent coming out of the woodwork here. It's a deck I think is still under-respected, truthfully. Lost its winning in for a Pro Tour top 8, and definitely had a number of players showing up with it in London. It doesn't garner the respect it deserves because there are 2 other Rune Blades sitting at the top of the format, so it's a bit of a hard selling point to convince people to play the third one, but she's very potent. She has a lot going for her.
She still defends for 9, attacks for 10. That's pretty good going.
Her Aurora matchup is pretty stellar. It's very much the reason to play that deck. The problem comes in a pretty high skill ceiling to take down these fatigue decks. You can certainly do it, but it requires some unconventional blood debt damage to yourself and piling up attacks in the banished zone and sequencing yourself to rune gate 3 to 4 times. And that's not only difficult to line up, but also it's difficult to execute, even if you do know what you're trying to do, which definitely makes it a bit of an unappealing choice for some number of people for a long event. Otherwise, love the one Riptide. Very happy to see you coming out of the woodwork just before high seas as well. And hopefully that went well for our Riptide player.
Well, shall we see?
We shall see.
Didn't do too bad. Sean Nolden on new to ProQuest. Emlyn Ingram on said green destruction guy on Riptide. ProQuest Skirmish. Aidan Bates on Aurora. Theo Mags on Florian. 2 skirmishes.
Very cool. I love to see some Riptide success. It's a deck that stands to improve significantly going forward, and it's probably been a little under-respected for a while now as well. This is going to be my favourite one to answer for the next couple of weeks because the Aurora-Florian matchup is obviously going to be incredibly hotly contested.
Yep.
I do still believe it is slightly Florian favoured, but you can just explode. For full clarity, I mean, Yorgos will love to tell that story, but it did like 44 damage to me in the calling, and I proceeded to die horrifically. So it happens. It's certainly not impossible. I think if Aurora comes prepared for Florian, the matchup might get even more interesting in terms of how that dynamic plays out. And people definitely have the room to kind of make those decisions now with their Aurora deck. Florian is their main nemesis. They're going to be able to attack aggressively for it as opposed to maybe Enigma like they were before. So I can see this dynamic moving around a bit over the next couple of weeks, but I'm still going to pick Florian in the dark for now because I do think you have the edge there. On the other side of this bracket, new Riptide. I can't imagine this is great for Riptide, to be honest. You do have a decent amount of defense reactions to kind of punish these big on hits, but I have to imagine this game comes down to a fatigue board state pretty often, and I think new is favoured there. So I'm gonna guess this is Sean and Theo.
Would it be dependent on how many tar pit traps that they get out to stop the
Yeah, maybe
effects.
there's definitely ways to make this matchup work for you as Riptide. I truthfully don't have a ton of experience in it. As I say, I think this game probably grinds out pretty long, and I just think new is favored there. So without additional experience, I'll lean towards Sean.
Okay, cool. Touching on Yorgos playing Aurora, I think the Greek team were well prepared in setting up these massive combo turns, because we saw Alexandra Jiriou play sort of like Gregor's, and Gregor's had the Decimator Fang list, and he absolutely got some massive combo turns to get through that CYB Fang deck. So
yeah, it was very much the way they were built.
Yeah, well prepared.
And I expect a lot of that going forward. I think the Auroras can build themselves to win that matchup. It's definitely not a lost cause by any stretch. I just don't necessarily think that knowledge is transferred quickly enough to affect week 2. So we'll see how true I am.
Okay, so just to recap, Sean Nolden, Theo Mags, right?
That's the hope.
Right, cool. Okie dokie. Let's have a look. It was Riptide versus Florian.
Well, that's very cool. And I will need to learn some more about the new Riptide matchup, because clearly there's other dynamics at play there, which is very, very sweet. That being said, I can't imagine Riptide. This has got to be a disaster. Like, this matchup must be horrific. You just make a rune chant and swing Reaping Blade for the rest of time and no trap triggers ever, which is not a good place to be. So I'm going to assume Theo took this, is my best guess.
I love the way you keep writing Emlyn off, but we're going to have a look, all right?
I'd love to be wrong.
No, you're right. Okay, Theo picked it up. Well done, Theo.
Yeah, Emlyn, for full clarity, I believe in you. I love being wrong. I love it when Baz tells me I'm wrong, but also I am currently a Florian stan, so there is an in-baked bias.
Should we watch the gold foil being opened? That's always
Let's
good.
do it.
You ready? We're ready. All right.
Call this match.
Hey, he made a pun, chat.
Doesn't happen very often.
No, it happens more than it should.
Oh. Yeah, what are we hoping for, Emlyn?
Let's take a look. Gotta flip it.
Yeah, honestly.
Gotta flip it. There we go. Okay, tide flippers isn't bad. Yeah.
It's like you were telling him to flip it, and he did. He flipped it into tide flippers. Oh my god!
There's 2 ways of opening your gold foils. You either pull it out and immediately flip it so everyone sees it at the same time, or you do the blue pitch approach where you put it behind the envelope. You look at the bottom right corner, see if it's got a block value, then the bottom left corner, see if it's got an attack value, and then take your guesses from there. If you open it any other way, you are strictly incorrect. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Let's go all the way over to York. Gaming in York, 28 players. This is the biggest event of week 2. And oh my God, I know we said Aurora was going to be popular, but this flipping heck, 11 Aurora in this lineup. That is madness.
Yeah, was actively very upset that I couldn't get a ticket to this, unfortunately, but that's the way these things go.
Gaming's always a hot ticket.
But as it stands, I mean, I knew the Manchester car was heading down, and we've seen this a few times in previous seasons. They're full of Aurora players right now in general. Funnily enough, both the new players were from Manchester as well. So everyone else that turned up, either on Aurora or one of the many one-ofs that decorated this room. But yeah, this is a bit lopsided. This is a lot more Aurora than I think you expect to see in the majority of these. But I do think if you keep seeing this, I don't see a world she makes it out of week 3 at this point. I just think she's too popular, too powerful, and it's just racking up wins off the result of both of those.
Okay, so let's see who made it into the top 4. Matt Duggan, 2 Pro Quests and a skirmish, playing Aurora. George Jones on new with an RTN, a Pro Quest and 3 skirmishes. Liam Holden with an RTN, 2 Pro Quests and 2 skirmishes. So nearly identical records with him and George. James Thorgood with Prism, and he's won a Pro Quest.
Yep, so full disclosure as always, I tend to know the results of the Manchester focused PQs because they are in the groups with me and the like. So this was a lovely George Jones, Liam Holden final for a little bit of CYB new versus Aurora. And very close, very contentious matchup, as you say. Very similar records, but words were had, and Liam Holden did take down this finals.
Let's just confirm that. It was brilliant. Well done, Liam. Well done indeed. You've put a lot of time into that, you and Rob, developing this Aurora deck. So well done. He won the last Baz Brawl as well. So Baz
He
Brawl
did.
8 he won. So well done, Liam, for
It's
that
like
as well.
he's good at card games or something. Like, yeah, no, he's a good egg, is Liam Olden. You'll be seeing plenty more of him, and hopefully he finds his way to Singapore to prove it.
Let's look at the gold foil. It's gold foil time. Some of you may have already seen this because he put it on
Liam,
Twitter.
what do you think it is?
Yeah.
What do I think?
Yeah, fully aware of this one.
go.
No spoilers,
What do I
but
want
it's
to
a
be?
pretty good one.
Snapdragons?
Everybody wants Snappy still.
Yeah, maybe. Do you think that's a pretty
I mean,
good hit?
yeah, that's not going to change anytime soon
Yeah,
either.
I
But
would admit
it's a
it.
pretty good common, would you believe? But yeah, this is not a bad one either. Gave it a little clip. There you go. Voltaire, strike twice, and
Pretty good.
unsurprisingly, George Jones, the Demon Ranger of Manchester, quickly acquired this shortly after it was opened. So it's gone to a much loving home as well, which is always nice to see.
I was wondering if he would buy that because he is a long-standing Lexi player. So it's no surprise that he bought that one. So,
It's now in George's hands. So you'll be dying to this numerous times in Living Legend. Enjoy.
At least it's nice and shiny as well. Let's go to London. It's Dark Sphere time. 26 players, as we saw in York, predominantly Aurora. Not as bad, but, the top two, Aurora and Florian, are the top picks for this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of this for the next 2 weeks. It feels like I'm repeating myself pretty aggressively at this point. But a couple sweet ones standing out here. Dash IE, please. She needs to go. She's been around for 5 years now, and I would really like her to win Sight Important as opposed to going out on a whimper.
Maybe someone just took her. Someone just took her to get her across the line. It's just like, I want to get my name on the sheet.
100%. And but at this point, I think if you want LL points on Dash IE, you might be fine waiting until 2028. She's just going to float around the top of this leaderboard forever. But with that said, a couple other sweet ones here, as I say. Azalea definitely kind of picking up a little bit of popularity, mostly in the States, but in general at the moment. And 2 copies of Verdance I find pretty interesting, actually. Verdance is kind of the natural counter pick to Florian. If you're looking to beat Florian, that is how you do it. If you're playing the versions with Fertile Grounds and the like, or even if you're playing the Healing Pot combos and going the full shebang, you will tend to get there because you just have this big combo turn that's very hard for them to interact with. The problem with that, of course, is that your Aurora matchup is pants. So you've kind of got to pick your fight when you go that avenue. But clearly, some people expecting enough of these grindy fatigue style decks to pick the wizard that should naturally counter them all. So very happy to see a few copies of her popping up as well.
Let's see who made it into the top 4. Nabe Mobassa. He's got Battle Hardened Milwaukee and Battle Hardened Atlanta. He's won, so he's on Aurora. George Roger on Jarl, UK Champion 2022, 4 ProQuests. Alexander Teague on Aurora, 2 skirmishes, and Mohammed Rafiq on Azalea.
So maybe a slightly controversial statement here because Jarl should be a really good fit into these Auroras. It's the kind of hero you're supposed to pick up to take care of the aggressive problem. My issue is that I don't think he does. I think the current version of Aurora is designed to kind of set up these big enough combo turns that will just make Jarl explode a lot of the time. He gives too much breathing room for them to have the freedom to do what they want. And so I don't actually think the deck is quite as good in that matchup as... Certainly not bad, certainly not a lost cause, but just not as like a steadfast choice as you might expect. So I'm actually going to lean towards Naib on that side because I do think I would prefer to be the Aurora. Azalea Aurora is another matchup that has a similar problem where you look at Azalea's kit and go, well, you're the anti-aggro deck. You're really good at shutting those down. But it turns out Red in the Ledger doesn't stop instants, which can be very miserable when they've got a pile of electrostatic discharges and the like in their hand to kind of ignore your best point of interaction. So I do think that matchup, again, super reasonable. There's plenty of play there, but I'm going to take Aurora again. So let's see if this was an Aurora mirror in the finals.
Okay, let's have a look. It was not.
Okay.
So Mohammed managed to get through with the right arrows at the right time and stop Alexander. So Nabe versus Mohammed.
Well, that certainly goes to show you that it can be done by Azalea, at least, and by no means a lost cause. But I'll stand by my previous statement. I do think I would prefer to be on the Aurora side of this, so I will stay with her through to the finish.
Okay, let's have a look. It was Nabe. Well done indeed. Yeah, I mean, Nabe's been travelling the world for about a year. He going to a lot of the battle hardens, a lot of the call-ins around the world. Most recently Battle Harden Dublin and Pro Tour London, in which he had to postpone a job interview so he could get these events in. So he was doing his job interview on the Tuesday after the event. So I really do hope that went well, Nabe.
And fingers crossed.
Yeah. All that practice, going to all these big events, your first time on Meta Report, and you go and win a tournament. So well done.
Not?
All that effort paid off.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I mean, what else could you possibly want other than a Meta Report appearance, as far as I'm concerned? But I've joked for a while now. If you're worried that you're in the wrong place for a fab event, just walk into your hotel lobby, and if Nabe's there, you're probably in the right neck of the woods.
He's such a nice guy as well. I had a really nice chat with him at Pro Tour London. It's just he's really good to catch up with him. Gold foil was not opened. Okay.
Understandable.
So well done, Nabe. Let's go to Dice Cup in Nottingham. I was at this event. I have recorded it. It will be coming out this week. 19 players, 5 Aurora, 4 Prism. So a little bit different on the top of the tree. And Azalea gained a bit more popularity. And look, 2 Acilio for this one.
Yeah, word getting around. There's some wizard shenanigans to be done. This is interesting to me because I think the Prism Florian matchup is going to be the subject of a lot of discussion going forward in the coming weeks. Because if Prism is just mono heralds, it's miserable. It's truly miserable. I don't think it's winnable, frankly, for Prism on that side. If you lean into the aura side of things, it gets better. But I also think there's some middle ground there to explore. And I think there's a world where fatigue is on the table, to consider on both sides. Genesis as a card should be fundamentally incredible against Florian, and the Scepter versions of the deck will have to bring Reaping Blade or just get crushed by these auras. If you turn over Scepter and you can't attack an aura, you're in horrible situation. So I think there's going to be a lot of back and forth about how that matchup is played, what the correct tech choices are. I'm very curious to see where the matchup spread ends up at the end. But for now, I still think it's a bit of a disaster for these Prisms. So I'm kind of expecting to see not a lot of them making it over the hurdle, but I, of course, would love to be wrong.
Would you see, if this happens, the Aura build comes in, would you see Florian's packing more Summer's Fall to deal with the Auras that are out?
Yeah, Florian's already playing Runic Reclamation, Summer's Falls, even Condemned to Slaughter, which I had in my list in London. So there's plenty of counterplay to that kind of stuff. And that's why I think that matchup has the potential to become very interesting. I think as it was in London, there was just a whole lot of, I have to beat Aurora and Enigma, so I'm a big old pile of Heralds, and sometimes not even playing Vestige of Soul, and just very much leaning into being as aggressive as you can with Imperium Rapture. And as I say, I think that's a disaster. Florian just eats that version of the deck alive. But there's clearly enough counterplay on both sides to make the matchup very interesting. Okay. And it's something I'm kind of watching for the rest of the season because it's, a little more interesting to me than Aurora just as a whole, really.
Okay, let's see who made it into the top 4. Richard Carr on Aurora. Noah Hicks. Sorry, I didn't do Richard Carr's record. 2 skirmishes, 2 Baz brawls. That's the most important thing.
The important parts. Absolutely.
Noah Hicks on New. Noah's got an RTN, 2 skirmishes. Isaac Murray on Aurora, 2 RTNs and a skirmish. And Tom Neziev Deacon started playing last year, and we're seeing him consistently make it into the top cuts.
Very nice. Well, I won't hark on too much about my feelings about Azalea Aurora again. We've kind of covered that base, and I will stick to my understanding of the matchup. So I will take Isaac Murray there. I think Aurora New is a little more interesting than it used to be. Typically, you didn't play New because the Aurora matchup was terrible, was the thinking. But we had that kind of version of the deck coming out of London, and just before London from the Blue Pitch guys, it was very defense reaction centric. The versions that contained CYB, which is a much more defendable matchup, and is arguably not a bad one for New to see. Without context, however, I don't know what version of the deck Noah was on, and so I'm probably going to side towards it being an Aurora finals here again.
I can't remember seeing a lot of defense reactions in his deck.
Yeah, so with no context either way, and without knowing if it's CYB and a Pilot D reacts, it's either an okay matchup or a really bad one, which puts it, somewhere between okay and bad. And I guess I'll take Aurora as a result.
Okay, so Aurora Mirror.
Aurora Mirror is the guess, yeah.
Okay. So, no.
Wow,
right,
okay.
You can see how one of those matches turns out because I record Noah versus Richard Carr. So, right, Nu versus Azalea.
Very cool. Okay. Well, congrats to you both for making me look stupid on the internet. It's my favourite pastime.
You're in my club there, mate. It's fine.
Literally pays my bills, so I ain't complaining. But outside of that, yeah, I don't know how much I know about this matchup currently. It feels like if the new decks are on as many defense reactions as I expect them to be in an Aurora format, and to beat an Aurora in the semifinals, that's got to be pretty profitable into a deck like Aurora. So I guess I'm going to lean towards Noah here.
Okay. So you're going Noah.
Yeah, that's the guess.
Right, sweet. Okay, congratulations, Tom. Well done.
I had to whiff eventually. I've been running too good, and couldn't have got this one more wrong. So yeah, about time I had one of them.
That's what we were saying before we started recording. You're really tired. You'll do really well. So yeah, you.
No, I was until this point. I was like, damn, look, I understand how CC works. No, clearly not. Cheers, Tom. Thanks for shoving me in a box.
Yeah, so you can see that final. It should be out by Friday. Okay, so I've got a lot of editing to do. But yeah, it should be out by Friday, so you can watch it, leading up, going into week 3. Okay. So let's move on to Patriot Games. This is the Sunday now. Patriot Games in Sheffield, 20 players. As we're seeing, predominantly Aurora dominated metas.
Yeah, a little less Florian than I expected here, to be honest. Definitely looks like maybe it's not everyone's cup of tea, or just the carpool isn't available. Truthfully, the deck is quite expensive. So if you weren't already there in general, might not be a reasonable investment. Outside of that, a lot of 2-ofs are going to, again, these heroes we expect to see on the outside looking in. Some Slippy, some Fang, some Prism. These are all defendable choices. They have very obvious targets in the metagame. So not too surprised to see those. Seeing the Max is very cool. This is post-armory deck, I believe. So some new tools coming out there to enjoy. And once again, another Acilio to wet our whistle with a little lightning magic along the way.
Talking about Max, check out Mansant's stream from Sunday. Had a chat playing Max with moonshots. That was a really interesting game. So yeah, plenty of stuff coming out for Max currently as people try and figure it out. But let's see who made it into the top 4 here. Rob Catton on Florian, 2 world top 4s, Battle Hardened Liverpool, and RTN, 3 ProQuest, 8 skirmishes. Soon I feel like I'm going to be doing sort of like the Jim Carrey where you go and then have to do an entire breath to say sort of like all of his wins. Matt Duggan, 2 skirmishes, a skirmish and 2 ProQuest on Aurora, Fraser Eastman on Aurora, and Jude Fisher on Aurora. Now, I would have thought that Jude would have been playing sort of like Prism because he's pretty much played Illusionist since Dromai. So, quite surprised that he switched to Aurora.
Very telling, I think, of this format at this moment in time, which is fair enough. Rob has saved us from what was almost a catastrophe, by the looks of it. But you're right, Rob. I love you, but stop winning things. It's getting so hard to make jokes about how good you are at card games.
I had, is it Tom Gordon was going, I want to get on the meta report, but Rob turns up at every event and stops me.
Crushing my soul. Yeah, no, don't worry. I know that feeling. So I do know that Rob was the only Florian in this room, and I know they were on Scepter Florian.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure this is a commonly held opinion, but I know it was talked about by the guys who kind of worked on the deck for Pro Tour London. They think that if Aurora doesn't start full combo into them, so, all the things, Iron Weave, Crown of Dominion, all the rest, to be able to do the whole shebang, the matchup is basically unlosable. And it only gets close if they start the full combo line.
Okay.
So my instinct with that knowledge is to assume that this just goes very well for Rob the whole way through, because it's a big old pile of Auroras on the top here. So I'm going to take him on that side of the bracket. And you know what? We're going to change things up. We're going to reverse our normal logic, and we're going to go reverse alphabetical on the Aurora mirror. So I'll take Jude. We'll see if it was Jude this time.
See, you had me there. I was thinking he's going to pick Fraser. You were right. Oh my god.
Nice.
So Rob versus Jude, Florian versus Aurora. How do you think
everyone remember going? we're on reverse alphabetical for the mirror matches for a little while. Yeah, I'll stand by what I said before. I just think this is similar to the kind of new argument. This matchup is either close or not close, and it's like never in the favor of Aurora. It's either 50-50 or really bad, and so I'll take Rob.
Right, cool. Okay. It was Rob. Well done, Rob. I'm going to have to take a deep breath to do your accolades very soon, I think. So congratulations. I don't think the gold foil was opened. Rob, if you can confirm, that would be brilliant. But yeah, fantastic win. If you want a deck tech about Scepter Florian, you can go check it out. Put in Alexander Vor in your search engine on YouTube.
Over on Arcane Games and Events, they did a fantastic job. Yeah, huge shout out to Alex, to Bryce Platts as well, who carried out that interview. They did a really comprehensive breakdown of that deck. They provided you with an entire sideboard guide as well. So if you want to ruin ProQuest season, you can. Go check that out.
Nice, brilliant. But like you said, it is a bit price locked. Felons ain't cheap. That's
no.
But yeah, it is what it is. Let's move on to the last one. Lion's Heart Bookshop. 20 players, just southwest of London. 5 Aurora, 3 Victor. Oh my God, this is where all the Victor players went. So yeah, very
nice
happy
showing.
to see.
Yeah, again, it's a deck that kind of stands to gain ground. In the absence of Enigma, it gains even more ground when there's no new in the room, which evidently there is not in this room. So not a bad pick at all. Just try and work your way through those Earth heroes and land on your feet. You hope.
Just got to stay away from Kano, innit? So but yeah.
Yeah, it's always one of them, and that's you should just know to expect that at this point. But otherwise, yeah, a lot of what we expect, as you say, an uptick of Victor here. Nice to see it die on the board again, trying to get her over the line. But otherwise, a lot of the heroes we've kind of seen lurking around in the UK this season.
Considering how defensive some decks are, do you not think Slapdash might even remotely have a chance?
Yeah, I think if you want to play Dash right now, it's definitely the version of the deck you have to play. I just think, truthfully, it's not as good at doing that as some of the other options. I think the Warriors are better equipped. Decimator Grey Axe is a monster, and it's really hard to win those mirrors in that case. And Florian's endgame power is just nearly uncontested. Even if it's the Reaping Blade version, it's just so much value along the way with Channel Millennium Tree. And if it's the Scepter version, I mean, you're just taking 85 Arcane and dying. And that's really hard for Slapdash to handle. So.
Yeah. All right, that's fair. Let's get onto the top 4. Oh, look, Nabe's here again. Battle Hardened Milwaukee, Battle Hardened Atlanta, and a ProQuest under his belt. Aaron Boyan. So Aaron is travelling again. So we haven't really seen him sort of like since. But he started playing maybe the last quarter of the year last year, playing out of Cardiff because that's where he resides. They've started sort of like Geek Retreat Cardiff's started doing events. He's become a regular there, and now he's travelling again. So that's really great that we're seeing Aaron go around the UK and attending events. So, look forward to bumping into you again, fella. Jason Rolfe from Florian. I'm surprised he's not rocking Bravo because that's what he did at Pro Tour London. He was the only Bravo player. He was doing really well first half of day one. Then it kind of like fell apart a little bit. But, he's on Florian today. And Alex Kitsu, UK champion 2023, 2 ProQuests, and he is on It's on Aurora. I would say probably the best Rune Blade in the room, but might not be.
Certainly up there. Jason actually briefly messaged me about this PQ season and said they were struggling to find the excitement to play something because they believed that this was very much the format we were expecting. And, looks like they might have been right. This one, unfortunately, I believe I have a bit of insight on the result for this due to a Twitter picture as well, which is never my intention with these things. But for full clarity, I think I probably would have backed my same argument as before with Rob in Florian in this room, and I probably would have taken Jason till the end. But I do believe I've seen that not be the case. So I'll guess the other side of the bracket because I don't know. Okay, and I'll take Naib there because clearly they are a stone cold killer. So I'll see whether or not they joined Alex in the finals.
You had me worried there. I might have cocked up. Right, so Aaron versus Alex.
No, as I say, I have seen a photo of Alex holding his gold foil, so I'm going to assume that Alex took this down.
Let's have a look. It was Alex. Well done, Alex. Gold foil, you know what it is?
I've seen the photo. I don't know what it is. Tie flippers, maybe.
Oh, right, okay. I thought when you saw it.
I always try and. So I guess people that watch the show, they might not know this. I try and avoid all of these results that I'm not immediately attached to when it comes to doing this show. It's way more fun. I get to guess. I'm not just telling you stuff I know.
Indeed.
But so I try and turbo scroll past photos if I see them get posted by groups that I don't know. And unfortunately, it was very obvious it was Alex. But I did not stop at the photo long enough to look
Okay.
at the gold foil that was in his hand, so I don't know.
Okay, so the gold foil was Good Time Chapeau.
That's actually a pretty cool one.
So,
yeah, that's new this season. It's a brand new one in the pool, and I mean that's a good one. If Project Blue kicks off, Betsy's obviously got some room there, and it's the kind of card that will be good if she's ever good. So yeah, not a bad hit. Yeah. Nicely done, Alex.
So let's get into the meta map. Here we go. This is Sweden. We got Peter Brass winning with Slippy week 1 at Mind Stage. Into Ireland, Dylan Thompson this week with Florian. Well done, Dylan. Let's go into the UK. So we've got Florian and Aurora. Aurora was at EH Gaming. Florian was at Patriot Games. Moving into the Midlands, we have Dice Cup with Azalea and Angle Gaming Lounge with the last hurrah for Enigma, and south of the UK, Prism winning in Excelsior, Aurora winning at Lion's Heart, and Florian winning at Entoyment Wargaming. Just one more to go, and we have Aurora again at Darksphere. So it is Aurora dominated. Florian's sort of like picking up. It's got 2 wins as well. So very much sort of like Runeblade dominated, and sort of like the heroes that we're expecting to do well are doing well. If you want to attend a ProQuest though, where can you go? So next week we've got Fanboy 3 Manchester. Are you there?
I am. Yes, I am at Fanboy 3. That one is definitely happening. I'm trying to find a seat in a car to end up in Welshpool or possibly in Worcester the following day. But it depends on if I can hide in someone's boot. But I will be in Fanboy 3, so if you want to come and say hello, feel free to do that.
Cool. Geek Treat Sunderland, Spellbound Games will more than likely be streaming on Twitch, so check that out. Thistle Tavern for everyone in Scotland. Cosmic Collectibles, Mox in the Hole, so a double header in Scotland for those players who sort of like are able to go up there. P9 Card Game in London, so a double header in London. Skyward Fire Games in Lowestoft, so sort of like the far east of the UK is finally sort of like hitting the map next week. Toys and Game in Worcester, which you might be doing, and for all our Irish players, Serious Business in Sligo. I think it's Sligo. It might be Sligo. I don't know. So yeah, they had a skirmish before. Now they've got a ProQuest. So that
cool.
was very well attended before. So I'm looking forward to that one. Last but not least, cheers, Scott. Thank you indeed for coming on.
My pleasure.
Yeah, not too bad. One miss this week, so yeah. What? 10
Yeah,
events,
you know what?
10 events
That's a solid recovery.
Yeah.
After guessing how the Blitz format works for a season, I'm very happy to not have to do that anymore, and I can at least look like I know vaguely what I'm talking about. So we'll take 1 miss. That's an acceptable rate.
Yeah. So we'll have to dust off your skirmish knowledge at the end of the year. Erica,
Don't know about that.
Erica, thank you so much for everything from Sweden. Arcanite Spike and Mangle D's Nuts from Ireland. And for the UK, Harpy Blue, Richard Carr, Mark Warren, Marcus Archer, Cole, David from Darksphere, Jonathan Hicks, Hamish Chisholm Brown, Seb Ball and Flaxis. Thank you so much. You get your name on the meta report. It doesn't matter if you're winning. Doesn't matter if you're getting in the top 4. You can always get a shout out if you give me the info, just like everybody here. So thank you. Remember the Patreon if you are inclined to take part and take up those offers. But without further ado, Scott, would you like to do the honors?
Why not? Guys, gals, non-binaries, pals, everyone in between, thank you as always for watching the Meta Report. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad Baz asked me to do it, and eventually he'll stop when there's more important people to come and talk about tournament results. But until next time, I've been Howling Minds. That has been Baz the Bard. You have been amazing, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you again very, very soon.
See you next week. Bye-bye. Recording.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, shit.
Sorry.
That's all right. I twatted the microphone and went, what have I done?
Yeah, I was like, nothing, no more iconic start to a video than just, shit. Like, that's it. It's all the intro you're getting.
One for the reel at the end. There we go.
Yeah, of course.